What is going on? It is Andy with your Monday NHL and NFL sniffs, because this Monday Night Football game, come out, you're looking at it, I'm looking at it. You know from the bottom of your vampire heart, your blackened vampire heart that can only be taken out with a stake, that this is not the best game to be betting. Are you really excited about this? Cooper Rush versus the Houston Texans? Okay, all right, relax, Texas crowd. Texas crowd looking for some Dallas Stars sniffs tonight, because they've been doing pretty well for us so far this season. Maybe that's what we'll do. Maybe we will start with the smallest of Dallas Cowboys, Houston Texans. Maybe this is going to be old Texas. Let me just stop that right there.
I'm a victim of circumstance.
How about we just do a quick Cowboys Texans check-in and sniff, a check-in and sniff for this Monday Night Football game between the Cooper Rush Cowboys and the Nico Collins returning Texans. If we want to go 9-5, Andy, any low totals on that board that seem doable to me? Okay, you got Nico Collins coming back. That's a pretty high total. What if he starts dragging that leg out there? But you know who I'm looking at, and you probably lost on him last week because he was the focal part of the offense, so it was hard for T.Dell to get some good looks. But part of the reason I like those lower totals for secondary players, which haven't worked out a bunch so far these last 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, Demario Douglas is just the asterisk on all this. They put him in the low to mid 30s, and he just hits 50 yards almost every single week. But Devontae Smith was no good last prime time, and T.Dell coming in at 47.5 against this Cowboys defense, when you know the majority of defensive attention should be focused on Nico Collins. Dell is the de facto number 2 with Collins back and his ability to actually, catch some deep balls. I kind of like this over on T.Dell at 47.5 receiving yards. Then this one just looks like a sucker bet, a Dan bet, where, oh yeah, Cooper Rush, the under on his completions, of course. Look how many straight times it hit. What if he's benched for Trey Lance? You can hit this easily. I really don't have any good answers to any of those Dan points. So if you want to take the under on completions, you can see how many straight it hit right there. I'm always worried hanging out with Dans. Dans lead you to bad places most of the time, as you saw with many of the spreads this last weekend. Every once in a while, you got to give back to the public. You got to do something for charity and hang out with a Dan. Maybe that's what I'll do on the under for completions on Cooper Rush. And then let's take things from Texas all the way to Texas, where we got these Dallas Stars playing the Anaheim Ducks. So you got the Stars against a bad team. And in my opinion, we saw something like this about a week ago. You had the Stars at home against Chicago. I think there's a mix of a semi-mail-in. This is the kind of game that I think will look like that Blackhawks Stars last game. Are the Stars going to run it up 7-8 goals? Well, you saw a bunch of goals on the road at Pittsburgh when they needed that win after that tough loss on the road. And then in the very next game, another game where you could just think, oh, well, maybe this one's an absolute beating of the Bruins, a game that they could theoretically should be up for. Now, this is another 4 at the bar. You know that I just love taking those team total unders. It worked against the Bruins. It worked against the Penguins. But we get an awful price at it. There's an awful price on the under 2.5 goals. It's like minus 175. So what I'm going to do, hey, we've been trying to take Terry. We've been trying to take Vetrano. Those two and Zegars got a point in that last game. So it paid off. Now, with those guys on the road, I'm not messing with the Terry Vetrano line, but they actually moved Zegars off it. So I'm going to take a double under on Zegars and Leo Carlsson, who are playing together with the worst player in the world, Alex Killorn. And the double under on them is like plus 130. So while the under 2.5 goals is minus 175, you can get 2 of what I would deem the secondary and tertiary players on Anaheim. It's basically the Vecna, the upside-down Stranger Things version of the double over. The opposite of the double over is the upside-down double under, which is what I'm going to do for Zegars and Leo Carlsson. And then on the other side, there usually are some great point props available. But Anaheim is so disrespected that things like Stankoven, which on Saturday, Stankoven was plus 130 for a point in Minnesota. Now, you got to flip that around. It's minus 130. You go up and down the charts. Marchment was a plus money, and Sagan was around even. All these guys now, minus 140, minus 150. Except, Jamie Benn. I'm not too much of a fan of him at this point, but he's still on the top power play, and at 5-on-5, he plays with Wyatt Johnston and Logan Stankoven against one of the worst teams in the NHL. Now, Lucas Dostal has the best saves above expected, which is another reason that I would like the under 6.5 in this game. The same way I like the double under, and I think maybe Dallas has a half mail-in where they win another 3-1. I would like that under 6.5 in this game. I do think Jamie Benn is a really good value at even or minus 105. Look at the rest of the roster and then realize he's on the top power play. He's playing with Stank and Wyatt Johnston. You have a good opportunity. And also, him and Stankoven, both for a point, is plus 230 against the Anaheim Ducks on their own home ice. There is value here. Always have to worry about the mail-in, but we can also temporarily benefit from a mail-in if this game stays under 6.5, which many of these Ducks games do. So a lot of stuff in that game. Not a lot in the football game that's happening in Texas, but of course, when the Ducks play the Stars, I'll find a bunch. You ready for this? The under 6.5 because of potential mail-in, and then Dostal on the other side being the best goalie in the NHL so far this year. Then I'm going to do the double under on Zegars and Leo Carlsson because Zegars is not with those two great forwards anymore, and I'm going to take the double under on them since I can't do the under 2.5. I'm going to do the Jamie Benn half of a point because he's the last affordable guy, and then the point for Benn and Stankoven because we're still getting a great price on it. So a lot of stuff. And then this next one, hope I don't regret it, but I'm going to go with the over 6.5 with the Oilers and Montreal Canadiens game. These Montreal Canadiens, they're coming off a 5-1 win, but the scoring hasn't been as plentiful as one would think. The whole thing with them, especially early on, giving up a ton of goals, but they were able to score some goals. You could rely on Suzuki and Caulfield and everybody on that top line. Got a little dry there for a minute, but they did end up the last game with 5 goals. And I bring this all up because I have some interest in this over 6.5. Always a little weary betting these overs. I'm always more of an unders guy, but I know since most people, most Dans are overs, this one definitely has some ingredients because you got the Oilers starting to heat up on that power play specifically, but McDavid, 3 points, 3 points, 2 points, 2. When McDavid gets going, you know they're now good for 2 or 3. So in order to beat them, you're going to have to get 3 or 4, as you saw with the Toronto Maple Leafs last game. So if you have Montreal, who you disregard a game or two, and you look at the whole season and what was expected of them, they're a pretty poor defensive team. They're probably going to have to outscore their issues. As long as Edmonton holds up their end of the bargain, and when you have a Canadian team versus a Canadian team, I always feel like there's a little extra juice in the crowd, a little extra juice with the players. And I think that will have a good result on both sides from an offensive perspective. I want to go over 6.5 in this game. And while I told you we were going to get poor prices on Connor McDavid over 1.5 points any day now, well, that day has arrived. Do you want to know off to the side? Remember that? What did we put it at? Well, it was the cheese, right? The Ryan Nugent-Hopkins cheese. That's still at plus 115 for an assist. Now, remember, he's playing with McDavid and Hyman. Hyman's a scorer. McDavid's a pretty much do-everything guy, which is why you're seeing these assists start to pile up for Nugent-Hopkins. 3 of the last 4 games, 0 goals, I think 3 or 4 assists, only missed in 1 game. I just think it's a good value against a team with a bad defense, especially while those other lines aren't contributing much for Edmonton. It's a lot of that top line right now. So give me that over half of an assist for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and the over 6.5 in that game. And then lastly, it needs to be brought up every single time, honestly, because they have no skin in the game and they're not affiliated with any of the teams that I like. I have a pretty staunch policy where if you're a fan of a team, you only have their paraphernalia. And then when a team gets screwed, like the Whalers or the Arizona Coyotes, I start to purchase some of their paraphernalia. But the closest I'm going to get is buying an Eklund or Zetterlund jersey for the San Jose Sharks. That's 2 straight games that the Granlund, Eklund, Zetterlund combo all came through with a point. And we're still getting fantastic prices on them. In a home game against a Detroit team who just gave up, 5 or 6 to Anaheim, where there could be opportunities to score here for San Jose, a few goals. This is the top line. It's not that they don't even play Celebrini with Toffoli anymore. This is the go-to line, and I don't know if it matters so much to you, but they should be getting the matchups they want with the benefit of last change. But whether they get last change or don't get last change, they're showing up on the score sheet more often than not. I don't know if the prices are going to change on these. I think the books are scared to give high minuses on any of these Sharks forwards. So I'm looking at William Eklund plus 100 for a point, and the way these are running, I'm doing all of them. I'm doing Eklund, Granlund, Eklund, Zetterlund, Granlund, Zetterlund, and the whole line. Just little sprinkles. Whatever you were just going to put on that one bet, just divide it up by 5 and put it in on all of them. Eklund for a point, Eklund, Granlund, Eklund, Zetterlund, Zetterlund, Granlund. Boom, boom, boom. That's an 8-mile remix right there. The Eklund, Zetterlund, Granlund LP. And that's what I got for you today. Good luck to you. Better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed here to the YouTube channel. All your clicks are always appreciated, and they're needed to help the channel grow, which is, we hit the 17K mark. Yay. What's the next benchmark? I don't know. They send you a plaque or something. What's that going to do for me? Is that going to put me on Top Gun? Is that going to put me on the TSN panel where I get kicked off for making an inappropriate joke? I don't know, but you guys can help me get there and find out by clicking subscribe, click the notification so you know when the new video comes out. I know this one came out a little later. Click the notification so you know when those videos come out. But what I would appreciate the absolute most is if you support my show, you fund this thing, you become the minority owners. You get to say, I own a show on YouTube. I don't want to say what it's called, but here's the link, and then you send them the link, because I think when you share the link, it actually is better than just telling somebody. These are the tricks you got to know. These are the parlor tricks. But if you want, you can join the community of sniffers over there on the Patreon. It's patreon.com/Andy Francess. There's no advertisers here on this show other than you, the viewers. So that would be very much appreciated. If not, no worries. I'll be back with you tomorrow for some Tuesday NHL Sniffs. I'll talk to you then.